Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton. Hi, welcome to the February 20th edition, 2021 of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. My name is Shelley Overton. I'm an astrologer in Orlando, Florida, and I want to welcome you to the show. Today we're going to go over some of the current weather, the astrological weather, and we're going to talk about the actual physical weather. Yesterday, wasn't good. I have Instagram stories of people who have roofs caving in rooms, flooded all over their floor, and it's cold outside. They break my heart. They're in tears. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. First off, though, let's get to current astrology. And I've got to back up on my ephemeris here so I can talk about the current weather. So today we have Mercury Direct. Yes, high five. High five yourself. Boom. So Mercury goes direct today at 7:52 p.m. and it's in the sign of Aquarius. We are going to be really happy to see this. I don't know about you, but my technology has been an issue. I was trying to have this podcast up yesterday. Didn't happen. So 2 hours of trying to record a half-hour show, not happening. But today, we're going to cross our fingers. I'm going to check on my cameras throughout the podcast, make sure things are going good, and we're going to record. So let's just double check our audio. Audio looks good. Okay, today we have here in Orlando, not in Orlando, here in Florida. I moved briefly. I'm only gone for 6 months. But anyway, I'm still in Florida. And today in Spring Hill, which is where I'm at, Gemini rising right now, and we've got Mars at 23 degrees of Taurus, Uranus at 7 degrees Taurus in the 12th house, Neptune at 19 Pisces, Sun at 2 degrees Pisces, just went in 2 nights ago. We have Pisces Sun, yay. So the only reason I say yay is because now we have a little less energy in Aquarius, so it kind of is a little breathing room for the intensity of all the energy that we've been feeling. Venus is at 23 degrees Aquarius, Jupiter at 14 Aquarius, and Mercury retrograded its last degree, last minute, 11 degrees 1 minute, and that's in Aquarius. We've got Saturn at 7 degrees of Aquarius and Pluto at 25 Capricorn. Moon today is at 12 degrees Gemini, within 4 degrees of conjunct to the nodes. Very significant day for anything happening, because the moon in Gemini, it's duality, it's double, it's communications, education, expression. It's also children, pets, neighbors, and siblings. So we've got the node of fate. Within, probably within the hour, we'll have moon conjunct north node of fate. And that's really significant. What's going on in Texas is being affected by this too. This is a moment in time where I think because of all the Aquarian energy, people are waking up going, yeah, this is not acceptable. And about 10 or 11 years ago, they had another cold weather event, same kind of thing, pipes froze. People were flooded, people were cold. I don't think they're going to get away from it this time. I think politicians are going to have to answer for this. I know Ted Cruz attempted to fly for a vacation to Cancun. He came back within a day because it was the wrong thing to do at the wrong time. And I think he pretty much stuck his foot in the muck with that move. And here in Florida, it's been chilly too. And we definitely, I wonder if we are susceptible to this very same thing. But I know we don't have an electrical grid that is isolated. Our electrical grid is actually shared within the U.S. So if we have issues with getting electricity, we can get them from other places. And as far as insulated electrical lines, I don't know if ours are. Definitely, I would say probably should bury the lines if you're worried about it. If you're not going to insulate, maybe if you buried them in the ground. I don't know. I'm not an electrician. I'm not in the electrical business. But, and I know a lot of what happened in Texas relates to whether or not they could bring the natural gas out of the ground. So even that is an issue. But anyway, getting back to what we're going through. Okay, today, Mercury Direct, that's the big story. We have until March 13th till Mercury is out of shadow period, which means Mercury or any planet going retrograde goes through the degrees, retrogrades back through those same degrees, and then moves forward one last time through those same range of degrees. The shadow period is the first time it goes through those degrees. That's basically the intro shadow period. And then it goes retrograde, and then when it goes direct again, it goes through those same degrees it did the first time, and then backwards the second time. So the third time through is the final shadow period. And that's what we are experiencing from tonight at 7:52 Eastern all the way through March 13th, when he clears that degree of shadow, which is the bitter end of Aquarius, and then goes into Pisces the next day. So March 14th, Mercury goes into Pisces, or I would assume. I haven't looked it up specifically, but Mercury goes at about a degree a day when he's at his full tilt. Let's see what the exact day is. Yeah, it's the 15th. So he actually gets into Pisces on the 15th. So just after that shadow period ends. Now, what are the shadow periods as far as in our lives? The first shadow period, we experience what issues we're going to be dealing with. The retrograde period, we get to refine those issues and those themes. And then the final direct motion in the last shadow period is when we culminate and wrap up the story. We may have changed our minds both directions. When it's going forward, we think things will be a certain way, then Mercury or any planet retrogrades and we have to go back over it. And then when it goes direct, we say, okay, now I'm really ready to commit to it being this certain way. Now I know everything that I want to adjust. So that's what's going on come tonight. And we're going to finally get everything culminated the right way. My sister sold her house this week, and I'm curious to know what happens between now when she closes on St. Patrick's Day. The final shadow period goes through that whole time, so I'm curious to know if there's a change of mind or something happens in that timeline. But I'll let you know if it does. Anyway, so Aquarian energy is still strong. The moon is in trine to all the Aquarian planets. So right now 12 degrees, 5 degrees off of an exact trine to Saturn. He's within 1 degree, excuse me, the moon's within 1 degree of Mercury. And so that's interesting right at the moment. Again, change of energy. There's a stationary period for Mercury as he slows down to go direct. And so we're really seeing this point of fate. I think that that's more accented with the retrograde to direct motion of Mercury trining that exact moon aspect. So you've got 11 degree Mercury in Aquarius and 120 degrees to the moon right now, which is about to hit the North Node. And so that's a really big shift time. Also, we have Mercury in sextile to the South Node. So this really is the culmination of a story or a timeline that is about a broad overarching storyline for many people. And so having the moon in Gemini, Gemini is ideas. Gemini is communicating what's going on. It's two ways of seeing something, and it's also, hate this term, it's so overused in politics, but flip-flopping. And so it flip-flops the energy from one way to the other, two sides of a coin. That's, a real strong visual metaphor for this energy. Of course, moon is in the sign, moon is the planet of home and family, and so we see the home environment being affected. Aquarian energy is really strongly storms and electrical outages, which before the storm hit, right actually when Mercury was about to go direct, I gave that notification that, watch out, there could be some mass outages. And especially in Aquarius, the sign of technology on a broad scale, that was honestly bound to happen. So the beauty is that now these hidden issues are coming out for people to see so that they can own them, they can recognize them, especially with Jupiter at 14 degrees. Jupiter is also only 2 degrees away from being in trine to the north node and sextile to the south node. So Jupiter is expansion, and the information is laid out there, laid bare for everyone to see. So this energy is very clearly associated with Texas as well. And then we'll get to the chart for Texas. I did that as well. Venus at 23 degrees. She is exact square to Mars today. And let me see what time that hits. Actually, is it today or was it yesterday? Let's go back to February. I think it's today. But it could have been, yeah, it was yesterday. When I was doing yesterday's podcast, I was talking about Venus squaring Mars, which happened at 6:04 p.m. last night. They are still at 23 degrees, although Venus is about to change to 24 today. But Venus in Aquarius is don't tell me what to do. Very smart woman, genius, understands a broader scale of things. And she's squaring Mars in Taurus, which is digging his heels in and saying, no, this is the way I have to do it. I have to take my time. I have to go slowly. And so we're seeing that energy play out between men and women, or receptivity, which is the feminine receptive in the energy of power and personal autonomy. And that squares Mars and Taurus, which needs more time and needs to really go through the process in a certain way to understand it, but really taking action, like a slow and steady plodding action. Yes, Mars and Taurus, action towards growth and growth cycles. He's in the sign that Venus rules, so squaring the ruler of the sign he's in means that he's definitely answering to women. Really frustrating for men, I'm sure, but right now, that's the way it is. Women are in a shift and change when Pluto goes into Aquarius. Pluto rules the feminine sign of Scorpio. When Pluto moves into Aquarius in a couple of years, we're going to really see, the taking off of that whole receptive power and not aggressive power, which we've really seen up until this point. The male energy doesn't want to sit around and wait for things to happen, which is more receptive feminine energy. So that is at odds right now. Do I take action or do I wait? And Mars answering to Taurus, Venus right now, we're going to have to let things be. And we're using our minds and using our broad scope and understanding of how things are going. So Uranus ruling all the Aquarius planets. So Mars answers to Venus. Venus answers to Uranus, all the Aquarian planets. This astrologer assigns all the Aquarius planets to Uranus. That is the modern ruler of Aquarius. And Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. That's when planets answer to Saturn, which is when they were in Capricorn. Now they answer to Uranus. So it is about the collective. It is about having your place in the collective. It's about a broad scope of things, humanitarianism, unions, united, all of this stuff. Hang on one second. I'm going to check our recording. Looks good. Looks good. We're still recording. Aces. I'm probably going to make this a quicker podcast just because I don't know how long I have with my technology. Okay, so coming up this week, let's see what we've got after today. And then tomorrow, definitely see some antics from Trump. We've got Moon in Gemini in conjunct to Pluto, which is going to be probably some kind of means of communication and making his authority presence known again. Kind of a blip on the radar, in my opinion. We'll see what happens, but definitely tomorrow, more chance we're going to hear from Trump. Haven't heard from him since all this shifting of power happened, but we'll see. Okay, so next week we've got the first half of the week is Moon in Cancer, looking towards home, how we're going to handle our home. Texas, very highly focused on what's going on in the home and how that is affecting the children, affecting communications, electricity. Moon in Gemini. I'm sorry, today Moon in Gemini, tomorrow Moon in Gemini, but Monday Moon in Cancer. So definitely higher focus on the Cancer energy, on home and, getting back on our feet after whatever we've dealt with, honestly, from the beginning of the year. I know New Year's, everyone's like, oh, want a new good year and let's make it good. As an astrologer, it was kind of bound to happen that we were really going to look to a lot of shifts and changes, and concentrated planets in stellium in any one sign is going to mean a very raucous energy. You know, you're not, unless it's like Pisces where we're all just going to kind of be a little floaty, a little dreamy. You know, Aquarius is a very high energy, high mental clarity sign. It does rule storms and weather, wind, electricity on power grids, the internet, mass communications, which were also clamped down because nobody had the electricity to see the news or anything that was going out. They had their phones. Hopefully everybody had means to charge their phone to at least get some information in Texas on what was going on. But definitely my heart goes out to Texas right now. Yeah, so with Mercury going direct, turns right around and hits Jupiter. Communication around expansion or understanding of issues around technology, but also housing, which, think about it, Jupiter rules real estate. That's something that I have come to integrate in my reading of astrology over time, especially when Pluto left Sagittarius and hit Capricorn. That was a major housing shift. The boom happened with Pluto in Sagittarius, and it ended with Pluto in Capricorn. And it was the issue, the key issue of that time. So since then, Jupiter absolutely has been assigned to real estate and real estate issues in my book, and it has proven very accurate when I talk about it. Interestingly, now, of course, we have Mercury, which is accidents also, and Mercury came back over Jupiter, and now he's going back direct to wrap up the story around the Jupiter issues. So we've been hearing in the news a lot of political talk about getting kids back to school. This is the story culminating and finishing up. We're going to have some type of plan for that with Mercury hitting Jupiter. And then Mercury continues on until March 13th, like I said, and will hit, well, Venus will probably get out of the sign. She moves out. Oh, no, wait a minute. Didn't I just say that? She moves out just after Mercury. Hang on. Let's see when Venus moves out of that sign. I had this yesterday. 25th. So next Thursday, Venus moves into Pisces. Venus and the Sun and Neptune all in Pisces. It is going to be about film, about stories from the past, history, people coming back into your life, especially women coming back into your life. Next week, towards the end, you're going to, well, you know, the sun's there now, so definitely we're going to start bringing old stories back. It's vintage clothing, it's vintage everything, basically. The old story, it's genealogy, getting more into your genealogy. It's about film and photography, poetry, creativity, art, the arts, old artists we hadn't thought about in a while, including musicians. It's just this sense of comfort from the past that we'll be going into as Mercury and Venus and Sun transit through the Pisces energy. We're about, let me see, 21 days away from the moon in Pisces, and so 21, yeah, it's about right after all the planets shift. So around the 17th, 18th, we'll have Mercury. Did I say Mercury? Let me think. What was I talking about? Mercury. I think it's Mercury goes into Pisces around then. Anyway, okay, so getting to Texas's chart. I've got two charts for Texas up here. I've got the incorporation date, which was Monday, December 29th, 1845 at 7 o'clock a.m. because that was sunrise. So I did the sunrise chart. And then I also have a noon chart for Texas, which is the same day, only at noon. On the sunrise chart, we have Capricorn rising, and on the noon chart, we have Aries rising. Both seem to strike me as really accurate depictions of the state of Texas ideologically. So starting with incorporated Texas, I'm going to just, I'm going to say, this is going to sound strange, but I'm going to say my goodbyes right now in case this is all that records so that I can edit the video. But anyway, thank you for joining me. Please check out my website at angeliczodiac.com. All the information follows the podcast and is also below in the description. So thanks, love you. Okay, so let's continue, and then we'll do another ending if in fact this records properly. We'll cross our fingers again. Okay, so 7-degree Capricorn rising at sunrise on the day Texas became a state. Mercury was 3 degrees Capricorn retrograde, Sun was 7 degrees Capricorn, Moon was 16 degrees Capricorn, all on the horizon at sunrise. Strong authoritarian energy, systematic energy, Mercury in Capricorn retrograde, so there were some stories about communications and being literal in our speech. This is what we mean, this is who we are. Literal quality is something that's Capricornian. It's very practical, pragmatic in how it expresses the energy. And so when we have the planet of communication and thought in Capricorn, they don't like to change. They're very dogmatic about their belief systems. And given Mercury was above the horizon, early degrees of Capricorn, it means that there is a strong connection to spirituality of the church, of the structure. So I know that's really a strong Baptist state, but there's definitely a religious dogma associated with that stellium of Mercury, Sun, and Moon on the day Texas became a state. We've got Saturn, Neptune, and Venus all in stellium as well. And they are in the second house in Aquarius in this chart. So again, Sun, Moon in the first house, identity, traditional, home, family, religion, all of that identity. And then we've got Saturn, Neptune, Venus all in the second house, the Taurus house, but they're in the sign of Aquarius. So there's a strong independent-minded energy that goes with the state from the moment it was conceived, so to speak. Saturn in Aquarius means it is inventive. The natives or the people who live there are very inventive and seek out the unusual and the independence, highly independent. And then Neptune in Aquarius is also a very strong energy of don't tell me what to do, idealized. It's like I'm so into doing it myself, I don't see how that could be a problem. This energy right now with the stellium going through Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, and the Sun until just yesterday, all showing maybe some of the flaws in that independent mind because of the square to Mars and Uranus in Taurus right now. The practical side of what has to be seen is coming out in Texas. And then Venus in Aquarius. So independent women, money is a big focus on this, being independent but making your own money. I see this chart and I think that, yeah, my son had mentioned living in Houston sometime. And I look at this and I'm like, you know what? He might actually like Texas and really find something there that he could wrap his mind around. So maybe I'll mention that to him. Anyway, Venus, Neptune, Saturn, and it's all in the house of money. So great ideas, inventive, pioneering, wanting to bring in that spirit of the West and not be told what to do. It's our money and our state. Neptune is oil. That's in the second house of money, so there's a lot. But it's also technology, money from technology, and that is a high focus in this chart. So I know Texas does have a strong, near Dallas anyway, and I'm from Colorado, and Denver has kind of the same thing, a tech area where it's just really strong tech vibes. So they're probably going to do better with the tech right now. That's really the way things are going. Neptune and Pisces, there is a lot of oil, and the oil is a storyline for Texas because of the third house, money from money. And my computer there just went black. It went to sleep. But yeah, having the Neptune energy right now, Neptune at 1956 in the sky is hitting the 1907 cusp between the second and third house of Texas. So that is a shift of ideology as well. When you shift, especially Neptune, which is a very slow moving planet, going from one house to another in the state, the shift out of oil for money, seeing the repercussions. This is where we see the physical, tangible
situation. It's Neptune, so it's the dream, it's the ideal. When Neptune retrogrades, there's going to be a lot of oil stories coming out of Texas this year, probably, because the retrograde will cross that cusp or get very close. I think it will cross the cusp. I think probably it just went over the cusp of the second to third house since Neptune went direct this year, this past 6 months. So when Neptune goes retrograde, there's going to be more oil stories and water flooding stories because it's liquids, people. That's what it is. Let's just see when Neptune goes retrograde. That happens June 25th, maybe the 24th, but I've got it on my calendar for 24th, 25th. And now my nitpicky side my Virgo wants to know the exact date. It's the 25th. So 321, that's my daughter's birthday. June 25th at 3:21 p.m. That's my mom's birthday, and 321 is my daughter's birthday. June 25th is my mom's. So Neptune goes retrograde that day, so there will be more stories around Texas. Let me just see real quick. Yeah, the middle of June, we're going to hear a lot of stuff. And then Neptune doesn't even go direct until November 31st or 30th. November 30th, the last day of November at 20 degrees. So, 20 degrees. How did it get to 20 degrees in Pisces if it's retrograding? Oh, I know, because it, duh. I'm sorry, it goes to 20 degrees and then it goes backwards. So, I guess it really doesn't go back into the second house. So we are on to a new story, and it is about the energy, because the third house where Neptune just transited into is about the energy. It's the third house ruled by Mercury. So the Mercury retrograde, this whole storyline is very well played out in the chart. Then we have Mars conjunct Uranus and Aries in the third house. So I do see this. I got chills with this. This is a huge shift. Chiron right now is on the Uranus of Texas. So this is the wounding. I mean, my God, I wish I had known. I wish I'd have looked at this chart before all this happened. It was, wounding in Aries right on Uranus. It is the electrical grid that's the problem. And then Mars is only 2 degrees off Uranus in Aries. So really, that shows a lot. It's cable TV, it's electrical, it's building with the Mars Aries energy, Mars and Aries. And of course, remember last year, Mars was retrograde and in the sign of Aries for 6 months, the last half of last year. So that was the opportunity. Honestly, I know a lot of information was coming out about polar vortex, and the polar vortex coming low this year, and over the United States coming down from Antarctica. So its waves are coming down, and the fingers reach farther down like that. And normally it's kind of like a flower at the top of the Arctic, but this year we've got these polar vortices coming down and reaching farther down over the winter. And this is unfortunately the state that got hit, or any of them. I know there have been sub-zero weather temperatures all across the country, but I'm really, really lucky right now, because it's going to be high 65 today, and I think it gets up into the 80s this week. So, tourism. Anyway, Chiron sitting at exactly the same degree as Uranus for Texas, major wounding. I don't have time to go into the depths of how long Chiron's going to affect that, because I want to finish this up. But yeah, that's going to be affecting the technology for a little while, and it's going to be a renaissance in Texas of how they look at things. And I really think because of that Western pioneering spirit in Texas, they're going to grab that, because energy is their thing. Uranus in Aries is sales of technology, sales of energy, and Mars is taking the action for the sales and building. So they're really going to use that energy and shift the dynamic, I think, after the Chiron gets off Uranus. And probably, as soon as the planets transit over that spot again, remember, Mars won't be there again for about 1.5 years. So it may take up to 1.5 years to really feel moving forward in Texas from what's happened, and all the damage that happened from the storm. Uranus currently in the sky is in the house of home and family in Texas and Taurus. and Mars just moved into creativity and building something. So, yeah, with the energy going like that for them, definitely they're on the precipice of a rebuilding of the state. Um, the other chart that I do, and I have a book that shows a lot of city and state charts, and they are really noon charts. A lot of them are done for noon, not sunrise, which I personally do sunrise charts because it's the beginning of the day and the sun comes up and shines its light and illuminates that chart. But noon is also very significant with the sun in the sky in the midheaven, usually at noon. So that is the case with this chart for noon, Texas. And that makes 11-degree Aries on the first house of identity, Pluto in the first house, meaning deep issues, and it's at 22 degrees Aries. So having Pluto deep shadow side around male energy, that is also a storyline, I think, for Texas. Personally, my view, and I know it's not all about men, but there is a really strong masculine, traditional male role model image that I always get, the cowboys and, the football team, and like, hey, I'm a man, I'm in charge kind of energy, which resonates more to the sun, the noon chart. And then there's Jupiter at 0 degrees of Taurus. So whenever anything hits 0 degrees of Taurus, Texas is going to feel it. I'm in the home and family of the sunrise chart. Jupiter is right there in the home and family at 0 degrees, but in the noon chart, it falls into the first house of self. And so having more of a traditional outlook that is going to be kind of exposed to the public, Jupiter wants to out wherever it falls. It wants to take our secrets and express them. And having Jupiter just after Pluto, Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which is the sign right after Scorpio, and Pluto rules Scorpio. So they have a connection from traditional astrology anyway, and their sun signs. But having those two in the first house, there's a really strong energy of independence from the Aquarian energy, but also male drive and male willingness to fight and power through things, which Pluto wants to do. Pluto will fight to the bitter end until it can't, and it finally ultimately realizes hitting it hard and long is not getting it what it wants, and it's only suffering itself. And that's when it shifts and transmutes the energy. And that happens at 0 degrees of Taurus for Texas. So as the planets come into spring, look for Texas to really face some cold, hard reality with that dynamic. Sun and Venus and then Mercury, they're all going to go over that degree. Currently, Mars is in Taurus right now. It already went over that point. I don't look at Texas news, any kind of news coming out of Texas, so I don't really know what some of those local stories are, but I do know Ted Cruz and politics. And he would be the example of politicians of Pluto and Aries having to cope with the new Mars going into Taurus after the impeachment and all that shift of energy. It's a different state. It's going to be a different state. I've been saying this a lot lately. You can't step into the same river twice. And while there are politicians who think that they can go back to business as usual and good old boy behavior, not that way anymore. Uranus and Taurus has moved on from the Aries energy. Pluto is at the end degrees of Capricorn. We'll have 2 years to really concentrate that old storyline, and then it's gone. So right now we're seeing it all bubble up with Saturn and Jupiter and all the other stellium of planets in Aquarius. We've really seen a huge shift of energy since the beginning of the year, and it isn't going back. I mean, we're not going to be alive when all this energy gets back. Well, we may be. Some of the younger people maybe. Saturn will go back to Capricorn in 28 years or 25 years, but Pluto will never get back to these degrees in our lifetimes, these degrees. And Neptune, Neptune takes a very long, I think it's like 105 years or something to go all through the zodiac. So it won't get back either. Uranus might, but only if you're really, really young, like under 10 years old. It takes 85 years to get back to a sign. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all I want to say. A lot of tech showing up for Texas, which really surprises me. I didn't really realize there was that much tech in Texas. I guess that's why it's called Texas. Bad. I guess it's a mom joke. Anyway, I hope this all records. I hope you stayed with me to the end, and thank you so much for showing up week after week. And yeah, we've got a new sun in Pisces. I love Pisces energy, and it's right on my Saturn. So a lot of creativity coming in for those of you water signs who are feeling it. Next Saturday is a full moon in Virgo at 8 degrees. So, you know, my podcast is due then, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So cross your fingers. It's going to be right literally dead between my Mercury and my Uranus in my chart. So we'll see how it goes. Again, keeping those fingers crossed, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much for joining me. Shelley Overton at angeliczodiac.com. Take care. Bye. Love you.
All right, so we're going to do it again. I've got two cameras going. I've got an AirPod. I've got the sound on that camera. I'm hoping the whole podcast gets recorded one place or the other. This is the second, maybe third time I've attempted this. Yesterday, my camera kept shutting off. So anyway, here we go.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergyAstrology show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the Astro Energy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.